A family from the 1980s gets transported back to the age of dinosaurs in the end of Oak Street. You know, you might think that a suburban mom doesn't stand a chance against these ancient predators, but Anne Hathaway. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my review of The End of Oak Street, which is in theaters now. The movie is from writer-director David Robert Mitchell, who broke out with 2014's It Follows. This is his first film since 2018's Under the Silver Lake. And the producer being plastered all over the ads is J.J. Abrams, who's often known for projects that have a more intriguing premise than the delivery can match, which makes this movie potentially a great fit for him and his company Bad Robot. Now, as with any movie that J.J. Abrams has his name attached to, there's been a lot of speculation about whether this is tied into the Cloverfield universe or it's some backdoor to a greater movie cinematic universe. My advice would be going into this movie that you walk in expecting to enjoy it on its own terms. I think you're going to be setting yourself up in a better position that way. Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor star in the film as Denise and Greg Platt, a suburban couple whose ideal 1980s family exterior hides some serious relationship problems. The End of Oak Street doesn't just owe a debt to Steven Spielberg's cinematic suburbia of the 1980s, it pretty much owes its existence to it. This is a classic spooky things are happening next door movie, and this one wears its Amblin influence on its sleeve, right down to the split diopter shots, a technique of keeping two subjects of differing distances from the camera in focus. This has been in use for decades, but it was a particular favorite of Steven Spielberg and the other filmmakers of his generation. Denise and Greg's kids are played by Maisie Stella, who I thought was great in the indie movie My Old Ass with Aubrey Plaza, and Christian Convery, who is the lead of the Netflix series Sweet Tooth. The whole family is thrown into a different kind of crisis when a mysterious event plucks their neighborhood out of the 80s and deposits it 200 million years in the past, where dinosaurs and other scary creatures see the new humans as nothing more than a tasty snack before dinner. There are lots of dinosaur movies out there, but apart from a few in the Jurassic Park series, there aren't a whole lot of good dinosaur movies out there. And if you're judging The End of Oak Street on the sliding dinosaur scale, then I think that this movie actually rates pretty high. I think that David Robert Mitchell did a really good job of selling just how surreal it would be to wake up one morning and basically be in an alien world. And there are a lot of great touches, like the addition of volcanoes and stuff in the background of the shots, as well as changes in the sound design once you go into the past in this movie, that I think really sell the reality and also the absurdity of this world. Like the great 80s movies of the past, there's also more than a tinge of deviousness in this film. Movies like this sometimes seem to take a sick pleasure in tormenting their characters. I mean, you could almost feel Steven Spielberg grinning as he put Indiana Jones through the ringer. And there's a lot of dark comedy in seeing hapless people like the ones in this movie running from dinosaurs. P.J. Byrne gives an especially appropriate performance as one of the great character archetypes of the 1980s, the jerk. You know, the guy you love to hate. It's perfect casting, and he's really fun in this movie. The End of Oak Street could have easily stayed in that lane of a dark, surreal, black comedy, but it's dipping its toes into a lot of other genres. We have family drama, there's the creature feature side of it, there's a horror side of it, there's more than a dash of science fiction mixed in there, and that's why the movie felt a bit uneven to me, because every time the momentum seemed to be carrying it one way, it would either stop or abruptly change direction and go a different way. Sometimes that can keep you on your toes, and this movie did keep me on my toes, but a lot of times it just left the movie feeling a bit herky-jerky, like it didn't quite know what it wanted to be. The main thing I took away from this movie is that it is really weird, and I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way, because you're not exactly sure where it's going to take you next. There's one point, it's kind of a point at no return, where it got so ridiculous and also surprising that I thought, okay, great. Any shred of convention or what you might expect to happen is now out of the window, and we are truly going to be on a wild ride from here on out. And that's why it was a little disappointing for me that the movie then kind of took a return to convention for the rest of it. There are even some ramifications of things that happen in the third act that are dark, yes, but I think also really interesting, and they go completely unaddressed and ignored by the movie. I understand that this is a studio film with tens of millions of dollars invested in it, but it feels like it walks up to the edge and then backs away. which might be more of a crowd-pleasing approach, but I was ready to jump into the abyss with this movie. Maybe it would have imploded when it comes to audience reception, but my goodness, what an implosion it would have been. It kind of waffles between thumbing its nose at the conventions of being a family in crisis blockbuster and actually being one of those films. And the setup to this film is so 80s Spielberg that it feels like we're being set up for a parody or a complete subversion of what we're expecting, which you get sometimes. Michael Giacchino did the music for this film, which you're going to figure out after about 5 minutes. And he is at his peak John Williams-ist in this film. His score is so ever-present and at times repetitive that it also sometimes feels like, is this a John Williams-esque score, or is he kind of making fun of John Williams? I think it's the first one. Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor are also making some definitive choices with their performances, and this movie shows you what happens when a director tells Anne Hathaway to go bigger with her acting. Ewan McGregor does well as the sort of hapless 80s dad that we've seen before, but it feels like there's more to his character than we got to see. I wonder if maybe there was more stuff with him that didn't make the cut during post-production. The kids in the movie are, well, they're movie kids, which means in life-threatening situations like this, they can be counted on to make the absolute dumbest possible decisions. Brian, the son in particular, is so dumb that I kept waiting for someone in the movie to comment on how dumb he is, because the people in the audience will almost certainly be doing that. And yes, characters can be imperfect in a movie. They can make bad decisions, but there's a point at which it stretches credulity, at which point you just don't believe it anymore. To put this in Jurassic Park terms, it's not a situation with this kid, with this son Brian, like Tim in Jurassic Park, where the fence is about to be electrified, he knows it's about to be electrified, but he doesn't jump because he's scared. It's more like a situation in Jurassic Park if Tim walked up to an electric fence with a sign on it that says, "This is an electric fence and it's on," and he decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to climb that. It feels like David Robert Mitchell walked into Warner Brothers and pitched a truly insane Family Fights Dinosaurs movie that broke every rule and also explored the inherent ridiculousness and mortal peril that would come with a situation like this. Not in a movie way, but in a very realistic way. And it's like the executives at Warner Brothers said, yeah, that's a great idea, but you know what? Could you take it down about 50%? There is a movie inside this movie that completely dismantles the Spielberg-esque films that it takes inspiration from. But what we end up with is half dismantling that kind of movie and half replicating that kind of movie. And the combination of those two things didn't entirely work for me. But it also delivers some really good sequences, some of them scary, some of them thrilling, some of them both. It's got some truly bizarre and unpredictable moments. A lot of those are funny as well. And it's got some of the most effective creature sequences that I've seen in a while. I'm honestly really torn on this one, but ultimately I'm going to give it a rating of it's fine because I don't think this version delivers on its potential. But it's with the caveat that I think that there are a lot of people that are going to absolutely love this movie, and a lot of others that are going to absolutely hate it. And you know what? If a big studio makes a dinosaur movie that doesn't devolve into mindless CGI and actually inspires genuine, passionate reactions, positive and negative, that's not such a bad thing. So those are my thoughts on The End of Oak Street. What do you think? Have you seen it? Are you planning to see it? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, stay tuned right here for the latest in movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.